welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, I'm going to be doing my labor and delivery story time. So this is the second time that I have filmed this, but I'm liking this a lot better, this vibe a lot better than the first time. So anyways, without further ado, let's jump into this story. So if you guys didn't see my Instagram post, Bailey was born on May 4th. And the amount of times that people have said, may the 4th be with you, so we will never forget her birthday. So she was born on the 4th, and I have my phone here just to make sure that I get all of the facts correct and the days correct. So, okay, so she was born May 4th, which was a Saturday. So on Thursday at like between 9 and 10 in the morning, I started having contractions, and I started timing them right away just to make sure so that if they were super close we could go to the hospital. So we actually ended up going to the hospital. I want to say my contractions were maybe 4 to 5 minutes apart. So they told me to come in to the L&D, and so I went to the so I woke Justin up, we grabbed all the hospital bags, everything possible that we were gonna need for the hospital. And so we get to the hospital super early in the morning. I called my mom, I called my dad, they're all rushing there, so it's just basically like the 4 of us. We get there and they checked my cervix, and they're basically like, guess what? You're 2 centimeters dilated.
Hey, who said that? Who said that? Who said that?
So I'm just sitting there confused and pissed off. So Justin's kind of just like, seriously? So after that, we all end up going out to eat, whatever, we go back home. That was Thursday. So Friday, I want to say in the morning, we ended up going back to the hospital again. I felt like my contractions were really bad. We were timing them again, and they seemed like they were close together. So we went to the hospital again. This time we didn't bring anything just in case I got sent home. I didn't want to be lugging around all of these bags. So we get there, and I get a new nurse or a new midwife. I don't know what she was. And they checked my cervix, and again, 2 centimeters dilated. Not even 3, just still 2 from yesterday. So she basically tells me in so many words that if we were having this conversation, and because I'm responding and I'm engaging with her, she's like, I already can tell you before checking your cervix that you are not ready to be admitted. You're not basically dilated enough, because if you were, you would be in so much pain that we wouldn't be able to have this conversation. So before we went in, Justin was basically like, you're not dilated enough, where are we going? And I was like, yes I am, I can feel it, I can tell. So instead of just listening and staying home, we went, and that was the news that we got, was that I hadn't dilated any further. That they're basically were sending me home again. So she's like, when you come back, I'll know that you're ready, because you will be in excruciating pain. You probably won't even be able to walk in here. And so she was like, I probably would say that because your contractions are progressing, that I'll see you later on tonight. She was like, I can probably guarantee you'll be back tonight. So after she sent me home that morning, just so we're all still on the same page, that was Friday morning that she sent me home. So instead of going home, I went to my parents' house to kind of be able to relax and have more help as far as my contractions went. And when I say help, I just mean I felt like I was going through a lot with my contractions, and it felt a little bit better to be around more people. So we went to my parents' house after, hung out there for a while. My contractions were progressing like, I don't even know how to describe it. So I just remember I was laying on the couch, and Justin and my mom were going back and forth, taking turns rubbing my back. At the time, I did not know that my back was hurting so bad, because Bailey, her spine was rubbing up against my spine. So they were doing like this all day long. So I was in excruciating pain as far as my back went. So just imagine having contractions and also having back pain. So for a while I thought I was gonna have back labor, because of the pain that I was in, which ended up not being the case. It just was that Bailey was rubbing her spine against my spine. So we were getting off to a great start, me and her. So after that, it was really bad pain. So they were both kind of just massaging my back through contractions like this with their fists, or just kind of like this with their fingers. So I want to say later that night, the whole day I didn't eat anything. I think I had a little bit of Jello and a Madeline, and that was pretty much all I could consume. And it wasn't that I was throwing everything up, it's just I didn't have an appetite. So later that day, or that night, my mom suggested that I take a bath to kind of relieve my contractions and ease the pain. So I took a bath. I probably stayed in the bath for maybe 10-15 minutes, and because nobody could rub my back through my contractions while I was in the tub, I decided to get out. And I don't know if the tub helped progress my labor or what, but after that tub I felt like everything was on and popping, and it was like go, 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 go. So I get out the tub and my back was hurting so bad through these contractions that my dad ran to Walgreens to get me a back massager, because my mom's hands were all hurting, Justin's hands were hurting. At this point, they had probably been rubbing my back and forth between each other for over 5 hours. And mind you, my contractions were about every 4 to 5 minutes, so just imagine rubbing somebody's back for that long. So while my dad was gone, I was like, I think I want to go in. Like, I think this is the real deal. And so my mom called the L&D people, and they were like, yeah, you can come in. And so Justin's like looking at me. I don't remember if it was Justin or my mom, but one of them was like, you're just gonna leave your dad? And I'm like, I'm in so much pain, like I don't know when this man is gonna be back, like he can meet us there. So I felt like I was in a movie. Literally, I went from talking to everybody to screaming uncontrollably in pain because I could just not handle it anymore. And it wasn't even like I wanted to scream. It was almost like my body was just telling me to scream to get through the contractions. Like I couldn't even control them. They were out of control. And so I was upstairs and I was in a big t-shirt. I remember I was in a big t-shirt that was sheer. So my nipples were out and exposed. And I had on underwear, and that was all I had. So when we decided that we were going to go to the hospital, my mom's trying to dress me in some sweats. I think they were hers. They were too small. I was getting so frustrated because we had probably gotten to past my knees, but we couldn't get the pants any further. So I was like screaming to just put on the pants that I came to her house in, because I couldn't bear the pain of sitting there any longer. And mind you, my parents live in the hills, so we still had to go down the hill and get on the freeway to get to the hospital. So that's all that was going through my mind, was that we still have to go down this long hill. And it probably takes about 7 to 10 minutes to get down the hill. And that's not even counting the streets before you get to the freeway. So as we're getting dressed, or getting me dressed, my dad finally shows back up, and he like sees that things have escalated, and he's just like looking, and he's like, we need to get her to the hospital. She's gonna give birth on the couch. So he's like freaking out. So that like stresses everybody else out. And so we finally end up getting me to the car after I had to be helped down the stairs because I could barely walk. I'm having contractions the whole way there. So we ended up taking 2 separate cars to the hospital. My parents are in one car, and me and Justin are in his car. We finally pull up to the hospital, and like my dad is running. Like I've never seen this man run. He's just like running. And he's running to go get me a wheelchair because I can't walk. So he comes flying back with this wheelchair, and he's basically like, Justin, I'll park your car, go in the hospital, take her in the hospital. So Justin's taking me in the hospital in the wheelchair at this point. And if you've ever seen The Act and you've seen Gypsy move in that wheelchair and how she's like moving, Justin thinks it's like the time to play and to make jokes. I guess he was trying to like ease my pain and distract me. So he's like, we're almost there, Gypsy, we're almost there. And Gypsy's like the name of the girl in the wheelchair. So we're like flying in this wheelchair in the hospital, like hella fast. And we finally get there. And the guy at the desk that's supposed to like check you in, I guess, before you get to the admitting part was like, he asked me for my ID and my card, my medical card. So come to find out, they only let 2 people go back in there before you get admitted. So it was just me and Justin. So my mom has my ID, so I can't even like vouch on who I am. But he could tell that I was in so much pain that he was just like, just go. So he like lets me through the door and they finally admit me. Got to the room, they had to check my cervix to see how far I was dilated. So I was scared because I was like, if I have to go back home in this much pain, I'm going to lose my shit. Like, I'm gonna lose it. So they checked and luckily I was 4 centimeters dilated. I was so happy and relieved that we could finally like be admitted. So as I'm sitting there laying in the bed, the nurse is getting all my information and I ask her like straight up, like, can I get the epidural right now? Like, and she's like, as we're getting your paperwork started and going, I will call the anesthesiologist to come here to get your epidural working and started. So I'm like, thank God. But in between that, she had given me something else that was kind of like taking the edge off as far as the pain that I was in from my contractions. And that was supposed to put me to sleep, and I probably would have been asleep if she hadn't been asking me 50 questions as far as my medical history and medical record goes. So I think an hour, so I want to say at this point it was like 11 o'clock at night. So an hour had passed while she's doing the paperwork and everything. So the anesthesiologist finally shows up. When I tell you I was like, my heart was beating, I've watched other people's vlogs, which I probably shouldn't have done prior, and seen people get epidurals, and I was so scared. Like, I don't know when they changed the process, but apparently they do things through a tube now as far as the epidural goes. I couldn't see and I didn't want anybody to record that just because when I have other kids, I don't want to remember that and I don't want to see it. And I'm one of those people, whereas with needles, as long as I don't see it, I can bear through it. But if I know what's coming and I physically know how long, how little, how thick, whatever the tools are that you're going to use, it gives me more anxiety. So I knew for a fact I didn't want to see what the needle looked like for the epidural, but it felt like she was just kind of like working through my back, like from the top to the bottom. And she finally, and so I'm like hugging the pillow and the nurse is in front of me kind of talking me through it, telling me to be still. And at one point I kicked my leg and I was like, shit, like, am I gonna be paralyzed now? Like, what the fuck? So the anesthesiologist was basically just like, I prepared for that, like, I knew that was gonna happen, so you're good. So that was a blessing. So literally once she put it in, I want to say it took 15 minutes for it to start working and I couldn't feel anything. But at first it only worked in my left leg. So they had to keep, so once the epidural only had worked in my left leg, on my whole left side of my body basically, or my whole lower side. So after that, they took me to the room that I would be staying in, and my mom was able to come in. She was able to say hi and bye and say that she would be back in the morning. So by the time we got into our room, it was probably 1 to 2 in the morning. They were low staff and I guess they didn't have their rooms cleaned yet, so that's what took them so long. So I was kind of just sitting in the admitting room, which is still a private room, but I was sitting in there for probably an hour to 2 hours before we got into our room. So once we got into our room, they had to keep flipping me every 30 minutes from side to side to make sure that the epidural was working on both sides. So eventually it started to work on both sides, but initially that's what they had to do to keep me epidural on both sides and not just one side. So I want to say once I got the epidural, and they give you a button in your room that basically allows you to give yourself the epidural again. So not like through your back, but it basically puts the stuff in your body. I don't know how to describe it, but it won't let you basically overdo it. So if your light's blinking green, you can push the button and it'll get your epidural going again. If if I did it and I tried to do it again in 1 minute, it wouldn't allow me to do that. So the blinking tells you, basically indicates that your epidural is kind of like running its course, and you can hit the button and it'll get it going again, flowing in your body. So I was literally just sleeping. We slept for a long time. Justin was on the couch and I'm obviously in the bed. And so finally this lady comes in, I want to say at 9 o'clock and in the morning, and she's like, I'm going to check your cervix and see how many centimeters dilated you are. So she checks and she's like, you're 9 centimeters. And so I'm like, okay. So Justin's like pops up out of his sleep and it's like 9 centimeters. So just between from 2 in the morning to 9 o'clock in the morning, everything progressed like crazy. So I went from 4 centimeters to 9, just like within 5 hours. So my midwife comes in and she's basically like, we're gonna start pushing within an hour. I have another delivery going on. I'm gonna wrap that delivery up and you're gonna start pushing in an hour. So I called my mom and I'm like, we're gonna start pushing in an hour. You gotta get back up here. So she like comes back up there. And literally at 10 a.m. I started pushing, and they make you push. I'm not sure if you guys are aware, but for those of you that aren't, they make you push through your contraction. So every time you have a contraction, you have to push 3 times. So you're just like contraction, push. And so after we started pushing at 10, and Bailey literally came at 11:03. So for this to be my first baby, I pushed her out in an hour. And I've heard other people's like labor and delivery stories, and they're horrible. Like, they're scary, they're awful. So she came, and for it to be my first baby, they were super surprised that she came in an hour. For me, it felt like the longest time. So I was pushing, Justin's like on my left side, and he's like I want to say he was holding my hand. No, he wasn't holding my hand because I needed that to hold my legs up to push, to bring my legs closer to me and push. So he was just there with the water and just basically talking me through my pushes and encouraging me, which was super helpful. And I want to say that maybe working out through my whole pregnancy is what helped me be able to push her out in an hour. Don't take my word for it. I'm not going to guarantee that's going to happen for everybody, but it happened for me. And so I did tear, which I think I mentioned in my vlog before this. So I pushed her out in an hour and I tore, but it was a 2nd-degree tear. So what the midwife told me is that that's normal for your first baby to tear. So as they're placing Bailey on my chest, the lady is like down in my vagina, like stitching me up like this. And like I couldn't feel it because I was still numb from the epidural. But she was moving, and it was like I was looking at Bailey and I was excited that she was here, but I was also like, what you doing down there? Like what is going on down there? So, and then I felt like I could just feel her do the tightening when you're like trying to tie off a string. That piece hurt. So that part where I felt like she was tying it off into a knot at the end hurt so bad. Like I wanted to scream. But at the same time, I felt like so much was going on. I was crying and Bailey was crying. She was like right here. She was there. She was like not in my stomach. She was there. So it was like so weird and crazy. But yeah, like after that, and we just kind of did skin to skin, and she was here. So that was like literally my whole labor and delivery story. We stayed in the hospital overnight. So we stayed that full day, and we got discharged from the hospital that next day in the afternoon, since I didn't have anything really wrong with me. I wanted to be in the comfort of my own home. I wanted to relax. And getting in and out of that hospital bed was excruciating pain, especially because you kind of have to roll out of it, and I wanted to be, there was only so low that you could put the bed, so I was more than happy to be discharged and to get out of there. Bailey was healthy and she was fine. She was 6 pounds, I want to say 3 ounces, and born, and she was 19 inches long and born at 11:03. So that